right, we're gonna work this out. Hi there, Real Masters. Thank you for joining me tonight. I am Dr. Monique May, your board certified family physician and founder of Physician in the Kitchen. And through my new Amazon bestseller, home meal delivery service and cooking utensils, I help busy households enjoy healthy eating without impacting their hectic schedule. It is Monday. We have made it through the first day of the week. Come on in and settle down. Thank you so much for joining me. Tonight, I have a very special guest. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this broadcast. I thought of it the other day. And so happy to have a former colleague of mine, Miss Sarita Houston. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hi.
Actually, Sarita and I used to work together several years ago,
Mhm.
and have kept in touch. And through the beauty of social media, she posted the other day that she was celebrating her 1 year vegan anniversary, and yay for her. And I just thought this would be so great to talk to her about and see what her journey has been and her challenges and her successes, and kind of share that information with people who may be on the fence or maybe in their own early on in their own journey. Um, so, Sarita, thank you for joining, and say hello to everyone and tell us a little bit
Hi.
about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Well, Dr. May, that's what I've always called you, so I will continue to do that. I want to thank you for, just affording me this opportunity. When I made the decision to go vegan, never really thought anybody would care that I went vegan. So to have people ask me, to talk about my journey or to you know ask me if I have a blog or something like that, just to kind of want to know about my journey and the steps, it's kind of interesting to me. So I'm really excited to be here and to just have an open conversation about veganism in the African American community, for whether or not it's for health or for the animals or for the planet, whatever your reasoning is. I think it's just important to discuss many different ways that we all can live and lifestyle changes and things like that. So I'm excited, so I appreciate you for having me.
Sure, and you have touched on, like you said, about 3 or 4 different things that I want to go back to, so thank you for that setup. Before we went live, I was starting to tell you about this new restaurant that I went to. I just got back, and I kind of actually, I can't even take credit. My mom found it online, and it's called, Flower Child. Have you
Oh,
been? Have you heard of it?
no.
I guess not, what part of town is that? I guess it's South End.
Okay.
Um And it is, I think it's relatively new. Well, it's not vegan. They have, meat on the menu, but
Mhm.
they have some very good vegan. I actually had a vegetarian plate tonight, and when I
Good.
tell you I am so full and satisfied, I had some, Indian seasoned, roasted
Mm.
cauliflower, Brussels sprouts sauteed with some onions, and then these, organic mashed Yukon Gold potatoes.
Oh my goodness.
And my 2 girlfriends, we were all kinda nibbling off each other's plate. "Let me taste that, let me taste that." One of them had the quinoa and corn. It was this nice, silky,
Mm.
sweet flavor, and, somebody else had one of my other friend had the, roasted, sweet potatoes that had, like, a little chili heat to them.
Oh,
So
that sounds good.
you've gotta check it out, and the prices are it's so reasonably priced too,
Oh,
so you
great.
gotta check it out. So, it was funny that, all these things are kinda coming together because, people are just becoming more and more aware of
Hmm.
alternatives to meat, right? Because we all kinda
Right.
grew up being taught that you need protein for
Exactly.
strong bones and, muscles and all that, and so veganism
Exactly.
kinda turns that on its head a little bit, but not really, because you still get there's lots of good sources of protein that are not.
Thank you for saying that.
So why don't you tell us kind of, well, first of all, let's start from the beginning. What was your motivation? What flipped that switch for you?
Sure. Actually, and I'm very transparent, so everyone that knows me knows why for going vegan. Like so many African American women, I suffer from fibroid tumors. And in my research, I realized that one of the reasons why we have fibroids that are able to grow is because our body is an estrogen dominant environment. And so I kind of started doing some research, and my GYN stated that my levels were fine. Like my estrogen wasn't high, progesterone wasn't high, none of that. But I was like, well, in order for these fibroids to grow, something's got to be a little bit off. What am I doing that's feeding them? And so we had several discussions about potential surgeries and things like that to remove the fibroids. And I kind of just thought to myself, well, what's in my control? What can I do for my body?
Love that.
What can I do? Because she was coming from a medical place and stating, well, surgically we could do this, and I could remove this, and all these types of things. And I was like, well, I understand that, but what can I do? So after doing some research and looking at how dairy can contribute to an estrogen dominant environment in your body, I kind of decided, well, maybe if I do just, kind of change some things that I'm eating, maybe I can kind of change what's happening in my body. So I decided probably it was January, maybe 27th of 2019, that I was like, February 1st, I'm going vegan.
Wow.
And one of my friends were like, are you serious? And I was like, yes. I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm an all or nothing kind of person. So it's really just like, I've either got to pull the plug or I'm just not, or I'm not like, and so I was like, well, maybe I'll do like a 10 weeks to vegan challenge or like a transitioning period. But I knew me. I was like, if I was still consuming meat and dairy throughout that time, even though I was trying to transition to
Mhm.
a more whole foods plant-based diet, that I would probably not fully transition. So my last animal-based meal was crab legs with lemon and butter on January 31st of 2019. And then the next morning I woke up and I have not consumed an animal product since.
Wow.
So
So
that
you
was
when I hear you talk, I kind of, well, for two things come to mind. You said my last, almost like the condemned person on death row, right? Like my last.
yeah. It was, it was just like, it was the last thing. I tell people all the time that what I've conditioned myself to think about my food choices now is just that. I don't like to say I can't have meat or I can't have dairy. I like to say I choose to no longer consume dairy. I choose to no longer consume meat, because it takes the power back to me to say, this is a conscious choice that I'm making. I'm not denying myself of something, because if I chose to eat meat, I could.
Mhm.
I'm just making a conscious choice to no longer do that.
And that is
Um,
so empowering when you
yeah.
put it that way. I love that. The other image
Mhm.
that comes to mind, particularly Black women around the world can unite or can imagine this kind of the big chop, like when you decide to go
Yes.
flax hair to natural.
Yes.
Some of us do it and let's let it in stages, grow out in stages, and some of us do the big chop. So it sounds like you have long hair, long straight hair one day, and then you down to a Caesar the
Yes.
next day.
Yes. That's
So
exactly what it was like. It
that's
was
what it
just
sounds
like that. It was like,
like.
I'm just going to just this is the last one. It was good, but I have to, be the master of my own health, and, kind of take it and take what's under my control. There are a lot of things that happen to us, environmentally and things like that we can't control.
Mhm.
But what was under my control, and my eating, what I was consuming was under my control. So
I love
that
that.
was my why.
I love that. I love that because you speak
Mhm.
to so many things because that's and in fact the first chapter of my book, Meal Masters, your
Mhm.
simple guide to modern day meal planning, I talk about mindset. The first chapter is about mindset because
Yeah.
everything starts, your brain is at the top of your body for a reason. So
Mhm.
I love that you just, was like, no, I'm just going to do it. So what was
Yeah.
that first day like? Like, so had you gone shopping? Did you have a meal plan? Did you, what, how did you do it? If you were going
Well,
to the other, what did you do?
yeah, I did the day before, on the 31st of January 2019, I did go to the store. I did my plan was to do originally it was a 10 weeks to vegan challenge. And so, and probably one of the biggest influencers for me, and I found her on Facebook. Her name is Tabitha Brown. She's an actress and a vegan influencer. And she kind of helped cement my that I could do it. I would watch a few of her videos. One night I probably binged her videos for hours, and she was just cooking. And I was like, I can do that. I can cook that. That looks great. I can do that. So I, figured out some things that I went through my pantry, and surprisingly, there were a lot of things that I already had on hand that already were vegan, that I didn't know.
Like what?
Like so the Progresso spaghetti sauce that I use was already vegan. It's the garden combination that has no meat in it. It has no meat product, so I use that. Most of the pasta that I already used was already vegan. I have a guilty pleasure. I don't do it as much as I used to, but Oreos, depending on who you ask, the vegan police might come for me after this, but depending on who you ask, Oreos are technically vegan because they don't have any milk product in them, but there's a potential for cross contamination. So it's possible that they could get milk, but it depends on how strict you want to get. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else.
You want to do the filling.
Right. I already ate a lot of vegetables, so I just kind of had to not fix them the way that my grandmother used to fix them. So I would eat collard greens. I just don't put, turkey necks or, ham hock in them anymore, So, and I also started, and again, vegan police, please don't come for me. But, there are a lot of mock meats that are out there that are very good, especially if you're transitioning and you want the texture or the flavor of meat. There are a lot of good brands out there that can kind of help you through that transition phase. So, but I stocked up. I bought a lot of mushrooms. Those are my favorite. I bought a lot of greens, a lot of frozen vegetables because they're great frozen, and you can just kind of whip them up. But I realized that it wasn't the meat that I enjoyed, it was the flavor. So if I can mimic the flavor of a meat dish that I used to enjoy, I can pretty much make it vegan, and I'm good with that.
Awesome. That is, you hit on something, because I was going to ask you what has been your favorite traditional or regular dish that you have veganized, and how did you do it? So you kind of touched on that. So it's the flavoring that does it for you.
Yeah, it's really the flavoring. So I would probably say the one that the majority of my family eats that they know is vegan, but they're just like, this is so good, is probably the very first dish that I learned was a crab-less crab cake, because I'd enjoyed crab before. So I was like, I really want a crab cake. How do I do this? And so I found a recipe online that makes crabless crab cakes with jackfruit and chickpeas.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
And so there's so many like little tricks that I never would have known about. Like, so to get it to have like this seafood flavor or like seaweed flavor, you use the nori sheets that you wrap sushi in. That gives it this, and obey, and it gives it this, it's like, oh my God, it tastes like the sea. So if you can get the flavor to hit right, you can, it's not, and all of my family is realizing that it's not as difficult as we all thought that it was going to be, but it does take some thought. If you're not prepared, you can find yourself stuck and then having to make a food choice that you maybe didn't want to make because you weren't prepared.
Excellent. That speaks to so many things, because I agree with you. For me, it's the flavor. I'm not, full transparency, I'm not 100% vegan, but I am slowly incorporating more plant-based options. And for me, like I just made a couple of weeks ago, I made some Southern baked beans, but with tofu instead of the beef. And
Yeah.
it was delicious. And when I tell you, and I even gave some, the true testament is I gave it to the two carnivores in my life, my father and my son.
And your
And
son, right?
tell them there was no meat until after they had eaten it. And they were like, mm. And what I did was, like you said, it's the flavor. I took a
Yeah.
block of extra firm tofu and
Mm-hmm.
pressed it and dried it, and then I sauteed it a little bit, kind of even more dry, and
Yeah.
I drizzled some Worcestershire sauce on it to give it that dark brown color. Because the first time I made it, it was so pale looking, and I
Mm-hmm.
looked like ground beef. And so, but I seasoned it with the ketchup and mustard and all the stuff that you put in
Yeah.
the bell pepper, onion. And when I
This
tell
got
you,
me hungry.
smoky, it has such a smoky, layered, flavorful taste. I was like, oh my goodness. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's the flavor, but it's also the texture, the mouth feel.
Yes.
I have that as well. So I want to acknowledge we have a couple of guests. Thank you, Michelle and Angela. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Hi.
Here, Miss Sarita is giving us her perspective, her personal journey to veganism 1 year ago as of January 31st. And just sharing with us some of her insights and challenges and how she overcame those challenges.
Mhm.
So, what would you say was the easiest? You've talked about a little bit about how you had to plan and prepare. What was just the easiest for you in making the transition?
I love mushrooms, so mushrooms are now my meat. Because if you think traditionally when we talk about what we grew up as a full plate, like dinner, you had your meat, you had your vegetable, and you had a starch. So if I'm making the construct of that level of a meal, then my mushrooms are now my meat. And then I may do sauteed spinach and or peppers, onions, that type of thing, and then maybe a sweet potato. And so what I've realized is that I can have a whole plate of like what we would consider side dishes
Mhm.
and it still be a full meal.
Mhm.
And that was just a transition, like I said, mentally, that I was like, what I know of a dinner plate to look like, I can still have that and just change it. But I love a mushroom. So I have yet to meet a mushroom that I do not love.
Mhm.
I'm talking about portobellos,
Right.
shiitakes, oysters, king, trumpet. Well, trumpet and oysters are kind of like the same thing. But I've yet to meet one that I don't love. So I've taken portobello caps and I have put all the seasonings that I would do if I was making hamburgers and with a little bit of liquid smoke or
Mhm.
some Bragg's liquid aminos and like marinated them and put them on the George Foreman grill. Got a burger. Um, I've deep fried with panko breadcrumbs, other mushrooms, like cut the portobellos up. I have two-year-old twin cousins and they don't even know that they like mushrooms. They eat fried mushrooms, sauteed mushrooms. My godson, he's the same way. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, what is that?" And I'm just like, "Just taste it." Now, some of the older kids in my family, because they know now that I don't eat meat, so they are questioning, well, what is this? Why, what is in here? Is this vegan?
Okay,
So
my
if I
son.
can get them to taste it first,
Mhm.
so they can get by that mental block of it's vegan, then most of the time we're okay. But like I said, I have not met a mushroom that I do not love.
I love that. I have you. First of all,
Mhm.
one, I'm hearing the cookbook. I don't know if anyone else is hearing this, but I'm hearing you talk about 3 or 4 different recipes. So at least a blog, at least something needs to be put out there. But
Oh.
speaking of, before we leave the topic of mushrooms, I have a steak and cheese. So I do it instead of a steak, I do portobello mushrooms, and I
Yes.
do it on the grill, just
Hmm.
like a hot griddle, and
Hmm.
I salt my peppers and onions, and then I do the mushrooms, and then top it with cheese, provolone cheese, and put it on a hoagie, and it is delicious. So, and I love the other thing I wanted to speak to from a recurring theme I'm hearing in your comments is that how you bring your family into it. You take the dish because I actually attended something a few weeks ago at the Gant where they were talking about veganism,
Hmm.
and one of the speakers said, when she is Thanksgiving or whatever family get together, like whatever dish she takes ends up getting eaten up before the meat
Oh
dishes.
yeah.
And so, but you know, that really makes you think about coming from in our African American culture, like you mentioned, you know, we eat the healthy greens and then we put in the fat back and the, you know,
Put in
so,
fat bag, put it in bacon. We do
right,
turkey necks,
exactly.
all of that.
Whatever health benefits we may have started off with, by the time we're at the end, we're in a deficit. And
Right.
so, it's great to be able to get people, especially, you know, babies, get them before they even
Mhm.
know the difference, but to be able to
Mhm.
get people to change their, again, their mindset, their thinking,
Right.
because they're like, oh, it's vegan. And, you know, they may think that's a cultural thing. Oh, we don't eat that kind of food. That's for other people or what have you.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
great that you can do that. And, you know, I think holidays are a good time to do that when you've got people, you know, large amount of numbers of people and you're all trying different foods that people have bought.
Yeah.
Great time to kind of sneak that in. So I applaud you for that.
Thank
What
you.
about, what would you speak to, or how would you, if you don't mind sharing with us, what changes did you notice in your health, in your body? You mentioned your fibroids. What did you notice as far as getting better? And how long did it take before you saw the improvement?
I would say energy wise, I felt better probably like a month or so in. But the biggest change for me, and if anybody is on here, I'm about to get a little personal. So, um, as a woman, my my cycle completely changed. I mean, because I
Oh,
have fibroids, it's already heavy and very, very painful. Um, Probably maybe like 2 months after I completely eliminated meat and dairy, I now sometimes completely forget that I'm even on my cycle. I don't even have to take any pain medicine. I'm not cramping. I mean, it's just like, oh yeah,
wow.
you're still here. Hi. But before it was, I don't want to get out of bed. I can't
Wow.
move. I can't, and I transitioned from traditional feminine products to a black owned. She's based out in Atlanta. It's called the Honey Pot. They're not paying me, trust me. But they're vegan, they're organic, like, and they are essential oil infused, and they have feminine wash, sanitary napkins, tampons, liners, all of this, and they that had really helped as well. So it was really about just focusing on, like they call it, focusing on the honey pot and kind of figuring out how to kind of just change my body chemistry.
Mhm.
Now I will say, because I know people gonna may ask, is I was anemic prior to going vegan. So it's been a challenge to keep my hemoglobin and my iron up. Um, I've had gastric bypass surgery, so I already have a malabsorption when it comes to iron anyway.
Mhm.
So for me personally, I had an anemia problem prior to being vegan. But I do a daily supplement of my vegan vitamin D and a B12 supplement and an iron supplement as well. So those are important, but I do get enough protein because it's probably the biggest question that people ask. But the biggest change was just in my cycle. It became bearable. Like before, I would like be in bed for days, like just
Wow.
not being able to move.
That
Now it's not
that
like
is
that.
powerful because
Yeah.
but it makes sense. There's so many hormones
Hmm.
in a lot of the meat and dairy that we eat.
Yes.
You know, they can get bigger chickens, they can get bigger
Hmm.
cows. And so it makes sense if you're
Hmm.
constantly feeding yourself a diet of estrogen, that the tissues in your body that are sensitive to estrogen, i.e. your breasts or your
Hmm.
uterus, are going to be sensitive to that. And some women experience the fibrocystic changes in their breasts. So with their monthly
Yeah.
cycle, they're having the pain and the swelling and tenderness in their breasts. So it all
Hmm.
makes sense. You know, one thing too, I just want to say, and I read this and I said, you know, that's a very good point. Talking about people saying you need to eat meat to get your protein.
Hmm.
Look at some of the larger animals, you know, your elephants, your cows.
Right.
What do they eat? grass.
Mm. Right.
They're
Right.
vegan, and they're not wasting away. They're pretty good sizes.
No.
We
And
need
it's
that.
hard to break that because that's what we've been conditioned to
Right.
know to be fact. And
Exactly.
so I mean, it's just like breaking the mold on anything, any tradition that we know of. It's gonna take some time, and it's gonna because um 5 years ago, I would have told you this. I'm never giving up meat. What are you talking about? My fried chicken? Oh, absolutely not. I'm gonna eat my fried. But as we grow and as we, what the old adage is, when you know better, you do better. And so just being able to learn more and be open to learning more. I think a lot of times we are just, myself included, was just stuck in doing what I had always done. And so getting out of that is a challenge, and it's in any aspect in life. But when you talk about your food, a lot of times we hear comfort food, and that is our food brings us to a safe space and brings us to a place of remembering good times and family. And so changing that is I know if my grandmother was still alive, she would be like, what do you mean not eating chicken? What's wrong? You know what I mean? Like, I know that would be a pushback from her because she ate chicken all her life. But I would, tell her, well, Granny, your chickens that you ate were in your backyard and you knew what
Right.
they were eating, and you were, you slaughtered them yourself. What you're used to eating is not what we're consuming now.
Right.
And so it's not an easy it starts mentally first. If you can figure out that I want to do something different in whatever the realm is, whether or not it's your food, you're exercising, you're reading more, you're learning, whatever it is.
Mhm.
If you can win the battle here first, it's won. As long as once you win it here, you got it. You can conquer anything. So
You
that's what I would just tell people is that if you're thinking about it, maybe you don't go, just jump off the ledge like I did. Maybe you need to, kind of transition yourself into it. But if you kind of feel that, maybe I want to do, maybe start out with meatless Mondays. Just start one day out of the week, just
That's a great
not
idea.
eating meat, or that type of thing. So but it's I think, and I also think too, for us as African Americans, it's kind of getting us back to our roots, because
You
the
bought
core of our initial diet was mostly vegetables, because we really didn't have a lot of meat, because especially here in America, we weren't afforded a lot of that. That's why we're used to kind of eating the hog maws and that type of thing, the pig feet and
that.
stuff, because we got what was left over.
Well, and if you look at countries or cultures around the world, beans and rice are a staple in so many cultures. Asia,
Yeah.
Africa, the Caribbean. I mean,
Hmm.
so like, yeah, I think just from an evolutionary standpoint, um, there was definitely a lot more plant-based diet. We all, as the modernization and industrialization,
Hmm.
we got away from that. Um,
Hmm.
you anticipated the question I was going to ask you, which was, what would be your advice to someone considering making the big chop dietary wise? So thank you for.
Yeah,
And speaking of you, I can't let you get out of here without giving you some medical advice. So you mentioned your anemia. Um,
absolutely.
I hope beets and prunes. There are ways. I'm sure
Hmm.
put that out there for those who may be listening. If you're wondering about good dietary sources of ways to um, boost your iron, beets and prunes and are some good ways to kind of start.
Beets
So,
are not my friend, we are becoming associates.
but
They're not
you
my friends yet, but we're becoming
know, but you can
associates.
disguise them though, right? Get a mandolin and slice those bad boys real
Yeah.
thin and put them in a salad, and you won't even know they're in there. They give you that crunch, but then you'll get your good source of iron. Well, we're coming right up on 30 minutes. Like the time flies. You are
It
having
does.
and
Well, I would say, can I leave one thing with your audience? If
please,
you are thinking, or just wanted to get some questions answered, I recommend two. Well, you probably have all heard of What the Health. That's a great documentary. But I would recommend there is, well, now that I think about it, maybe three. Forks Over Knives on Netflix is a great documentary. If you're looking for information that's coming from a medical base, that's a good documentary.
Okay.
The Game Changers, if any of you all are athletes, that's from an athletic perspective about transitioning to a plant-based diet. And also on Amazon and YouTube, there is a documentary called The Invisible Vegan, and it's really about veganism from the African American perspective. So those are all really good places to start, even if you just want to get some information, even if you're not even really thinking about transitioning and you just want to get some info. And I think those are good places to start if you have questions. So I say just determine your why. Why would you want to transition? Like I said, there are dietary vegans, there are lifestyle vegans, there are, people, raw vegans who, don't eat anything over, I think it's 105 degrees, I want to say. Might be less than that. But, so there's a plethora, you got pescatarians who still eat fish and shellfish. There's a variety of
Mhm.
ways that you can change it, but do what works for you. Don't let anyone put you in a box for if
I love
if you decide to do whatever, because I tell people all the time, they talked about Jesus, so you are not immune. Someone is
it.
probably going to have something to say, but that's all right. They talked about
Figuring it out.
Jesus, so you're in good
Yeah.
company.
So, and I mean, those are all great points. And I wanted just real quick, I'm looking up some dietary sources of, because I said, I know there's got to be more than beets and prunes for anemia, for iron, but legumes, like we talked about already, beans,
Hmm.
lentils, soybeans,
Hmm.
tofu,
Yes,
your mushrooms are on the list. So you should be, that should be getting better with all the mushrooms you eat.
I
Um,
know. I know.
pumpkin seeds, flax seeds, hemp
Hemp.
seeds. It's a ton of, this is all just good dark leafy green vegetables.
Yeah,
Tomato paste. Who would call it tomato paste?
right.
Potatoes, but yeah, lots of sources for folks that who need the extra for the iron boost. Uh,
Hmm.
Fruit, mulberry, and whole grains. So
Hmm.
and quinoa is on the list.
Quinoa's one. Yep, that's another one.
I made some yesterday for the Super Bowl. I said my family was eating chicken wings. I made my bell pepper, stuffed bell peppers, and instead of rice, I used quinoa, and instead of beef, I used the meatless crumble because it gave it a
Mm-hmm.
good texture, and it was delicious. So quinoa,
Hmm.
and people kind of sometimes think too quinoa is the same as or to change quinoa and couscous.
Couscous. Yeah.
It's not the same. Couscous is a
Mm-mm.
pasta,
It's a pasta,
and
right?
quinoa is a grain. So
Hmm.
different health benefits for you. Definitely want to get the quinoa over the couscous. So
Yeah.
it is over 33 minutes. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Sarita. I just
Absolutely.
been just like I mean you knocked it out the park. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I
And
really
I
appreciate
would
it.
love to leave a standing open invitation if you start writing those blogs. Come back on, let me know so we can share where people can find you. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's good to
Hmm.
when you. It's always like when you see someone who looks like you doing something,
Hmm.
always makes it
Yeah.
just makes it easier. Like you said, you were
Yeah.
watching the blog, the woman cooking, and you said Miss
Yes.
Brown, and you said I can do.
Yes.
And so people, I think, would like to see, you putting something out there. Please come back on and let us know and share it with us. So,
Absolutely. Well, people can follow me on Instagram. I post a little bit more about like what I cook on Instagram, but I have a whole in my highlights. It has highlighted my vegan journey from day one until yesterday. So they can find me on Instagram at Binka BINK 0407, and so they can take a look through that and see some of the dishes that I've made. What I've done at the grocery store, that type of thing. So they can
love
follow me there.
it. And I'm trying to post that so people can see it. There you go. Did I at Binka 0407?
You got it.
Okay. All right. And then I have, if you guys want, just we're talking about ways to, always incorporate different things into your diet. I have a quick and easy pesto demonstration at myeasypesto.com. I
Ooh.
love pesto. It's great. It's 5 super, super easy ingredients: olive oil, basil, um, s- uh, pine nuts,
Mhm.
garlic, and Parmesan cheese. And if you don't want any dairy, you can of course swap out the Parmesan cheese. If
Mhm.
you're allergic to nuts, you can do sunflower seeds. You can
Mhm.
not just do basil. You can do any green. Um, you can do avocado pesto. You can do
Yes.
spinach pesto.
Love
Anything.
avocado.
You can yes, you can do any. I've seen recipes with red pepper pesto.
Mm.
So you can really just play with it and make your own. But I have a nice, easy demo for basic pesto at myeasypesto.com. So be sure to check it out. Thank you so much, Rita. We're going to get out of
Thank
here.
you.
And until
Thank
next
you.
time, everybody, this is Dr. Monique May, your board certified family physician and founder of Physician in the Kitchen. And through my #1 selling Amazon book, home and beauty service, and kitchen utensils, I help busy households enjoy healthy eating without impacting their hectic schedules. Good night.
Good night.